Asterisk, everything you've survived should have broken you. Why softness is the most radical thing a Black woman can choose. Right now, asterisk, welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast, where we unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom we deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that has fundamentally changed how I see this moment we're living in. And it came from a conversation with someone whose work is literally reshaping the landscape for Black women in America. Her name is Felecia Pittman, and she is not just observing the economic crisis facing Black professional women. She is actively dismantling the barriers, building pathways through the wreckage, and helping sisters move from survival mode to strategic power. Felicia is the kind of leader who doesn't just talk about change, she architects it. She's helping Black women transition from exhaustion to alignment, from proving their worth to knowing their value, from working themselves into the ground to building lives and careers rooted in faith, boundaries, and grace. What she shared with me is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about ambition, softness, and what it really takes to thrive as a Black woman in 2025. So let me be very clear about something right from the start. We have been sold a story, a beautiful, seductive, dangerous story. We've been told that if we lean in, if we overachieve, if we collect the degrees and show up early and stay late and prove ourselves over and over and over again, the system will eventually reward us. We've been told that our hustle is the answer, that if we just work a little harder, speak up a little louder, code switch a little smoother, navigate a little more gracefully, we will finally get the seat at the table we've been promised. But here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Right now in 2025, Black women are doing everything right, and we are still being laid off, underpaid, and pushed out of leadership tracks at historic levels. Since February of this year alone, Black women have lost nearly 300,000 jobs. Another 223,000 of us are unemployed. 75,000 have left the labor force entirely. The real unemployment rate for Black women, when you account for those who've been forced out, is over 10%. And the pay gap, it's widening. Black women are earning about 71 cents on the dollar weekly and just 66 cents annually compared with white non Hispanic men. Let that sink in for a moment. We are among the most educated, most consistently employed demographics in this country. And yet, we are being economically sidelined at a rate that should alarm everyone. Nearly 600,000 Black women have been pushed to the margins of the economy in 1 year, draining an estimated $9.2 billion from US GDP. This is not a personal failure, this is a structural crisis. And here's where Felicia's insight becomes revolutionary, where it stops being just data and starts becoming a lifeline. She said something that made me stop in my tracks. She said, this soft girl era for Black professional women is not about opting out of ambition or toughness at all. It's a strategic, faith led survival move in the middle of an economic and workplace crisis that is hitting Black women harder than almost anyone is talking about. Softness in this context is not weakness. It is not retreat. It is resistance. It is a radical leadership strategy that Black women can use to protect our health, reclaim our identity, and design work that serves us, not just our employers. Because here's what the data show: DEI protections are being dismantled. Over 60 major corporations have scaled back or removed DEI departments under political pressure, and many of those roles were held by Black women. The mentorship pipelines, the advocacy structures, the few institutional supports that had begun to open doors, they're being cut. At the same time, Black women in leadership are reporting record levels of burnout. 70% of senior level women who've been at their companies for 5 years or less report frequent burnout, and 81% are concerned about job security. For Black women in leadership, those numbers are even more devastating. So when we talk about a soft girl era, we're not talking about an aesthetic, we're not talking about pastel colors and bubble baths, though rest is sacred and you deserve that too. We're talking about a spiritual, emotional, and mental recalibration. We're talking about God led boundaries, emotional regulation, and nervous system level care. We're talking about honoring our limits, listening to our bodies, and building businesses or careers that align with our values and God's grace, because that is what allows us to stay in the game long term instead of breaking under the pressure of constantly proving we belong. Let me tell you what's happening in California right now, because this is where the story gets hopeful, where we see what's possible when Black women stop trying to outwork a broken system and start building new ones. The California Black Women's Collective Empowerment Institute launched something called SheWorksCA in response to the documented inequities facing Black women in work, wages, and leadership across the state. They published a comprehensive State of Black Women in California report that centers Black women's experiences and provides a framework for action. And what they're doing is brilliant. They're not just treating Black women as job seekers, they're treating us as leaders and change agents. They're pairing skills development and career pathways with supportive community and advocacy. They're integrating storytelling with hard data, affirming that Black women's lived experiences are central to designing solutions. The data tells a story, and so do we. And here's what's happening: Black women who participate in SheWorksCA are gaining access to pathways to meaningful, sustainable work, not just any available low wage role. They're shifting from surviving to strategically planning careers that reflect their value, with community support instead of isolated striving. The initiative is shaping policy recommendations and public understanding of what Black women need to thrive in the workforce. This is what a soft but powerful infrastructure looks like. This is what happens when we stop asking Black women to outwork structural inequity in isolation and start building ecosystems that resource us to lead the change. Now, let's talk about what economist Michelle Holder calls the exit economy. She describes a reality where Black women are being pushed out of the labor force at alarming rates, despite being highly engaged workers. And while the economic pain is real, something else is happening too. This forced exit is pushing many Black women to reconsider their relationship to work, hustle, and self worth. It's fueling a collective shift that aligns with a softer, more self honoring era. Black women are leaving or being forced out of traditional roles. And then we're redefining what work looks like. We're starting businesses. We're pursuing contract work. We're pivoting into roles that offer more control and alignment, even if they're initially less stable. We're reclaiming identity. We're setting boundaries. We're demanding workplaces that honor our humanity. And this is not frivolous. This is a necessary recalibration in the face of an economy that is disproportionately extracting from and discarding Black women. If you feel exhausted, if you feel betrayed by the system, if you're ready to pivot, you are not alone. You are part of a documented national pattern. And your response, your boundary setting, your decision to leave a toxic workplace, your choice to start a business, these are economically and spiritually significant acts of resistance and redesign. Now, here's what I need you to hear, because this is where Felicia's wisdom becomes a lifeline, where the data meets the divine. You are not the problem. The system is. Black women have some of the highest labor force participation and educational attainment, yet we're facing rising unemployment, deeper pay gaps, and mass layoffs. When you're sidelined, underpaid, or overlooked, it's not proof that you're not enough. It's proof that you're operating in a system that was never designed with your flourishing in mind. Recognizing that is the first step toward healing and strategic action, not an excuse. Your soft girl era can be a strategic blueprint, not just an aesthetic. With DEI roles and budgets being cut, promotion pipelines shrinking for women of color, and burnout spiking among women in leadership, especially Black women, the old strategy of overperforming in hostile systems is literally costing us our health. A soft strategy looks like choosing aligned work, saying no to toxic roles, pricing your services to reflect your value, seeking supportive ecosystems, and creating margin for rest and spiritual grounding, all of which make you a more effective leader and entrepreneur, not less. And here's the third truth: you can build power and prosperity even in a hostile economy, but not by doing it alone. The data show that Black women are being pushed into lower paying jobs, facing widened pay gaps, and losing access to leadership track roles. Yet we are also creating businesses and community based solutions in response to these barriers. The path forward is collective. It's plugging into networks, mentorship, and programs created specifically for Black women, especially those that combine skills, advocacy, and community. So you're not trying to outwork structural inequity in isolation. The soft girl era, when rooted in faith, community, and strategy, is about designing a life and career where everything you survived becomes fuel, not a sentence. Where everything I've been through should have broken me, but I'm still here by God's grace, becomes a business model, a leadership style, and a legacy. So here's what I want to leave you with today: not a neat conclusion, not a pretty bow, but a disruption, a challenge, a call. If you truly believed deep in your bones that everything you've survived should have shattered you into 1,000 pieces, but you are still standing, still breathing, still dreaming by God's grace alone, what would you stop tolerating right now? What boundary would you finally draw? What toxic role would you walk away from? What underpriced service would you stop offering? What dream would you stop delaying? And here's the harder question: what soft, faith led decision will you make this week to honor the woman you've become? Not the woman you were told to be, not the woman who carries everyone else's expectations, but the woman who survived, the woman who is still here, the woman who deserves a life, a career, and a business that finally treats her like the miracle she is. I want you to do something today. Write down one boundary, one belief, one brave next step that aligns your career or business with that truth. And then, and this is the most important part, share it with a trusted sister or mentor, because we are not doing this alone anymore. We are not climbing in isolation anymore. We are building together. We are healing together. We are choosing softness together, because softness is not weakness. It's a radical act of self love. It's a strategic survival move. It's a faith anchored recalibration. And it's the thing that will allow you to stay in the game, to build the legacy, to honor the miracle that you are. Everything you've been through should have broken you, but you're still here. By God's grace, you're still here. So, what are you going to build with that survival? What are you going to create with that resilience? What soft, powerful, faith led life are you finally ready to live? The world is waiting, your sisters are waiting, and God is waiting. So choose softness, choose boundaries, choose yourself. And watch what happens when a Black woman who should have been broken decides instead to bloom.